Now, in a recent article on July 6, 2021, Department of Health sees population protection by November of this year, 2021. Now, some people may say that's rather ambitious by the Philippines government, and who knows? Maybe it is, or maybe it's possible. I don't know. I'm no expert in this field. But why is that important to you and me? Well, I assume that most of you guys are interested in the Philippines because you've got a Filipino over there, or you're looking to find a Filipino over there. And of course, that means you're very keen to get back over there. So you're interested in when the country is going to reopen. Now, this gives us a little bit of insight into their thinking in the Philippines. The Department of Health is hopeful that the country will achieve population protection against COVID-19 in the National Capital Region by November, an official said yesterday. Now, when they talk population protection, they're talking about what we may call also herd immunity. So if enough of the population has the vaccine and is fully vaccinated, then they get the population protection overall. Asked at a press briefing if achieving population protection is doable in the National Capital Region 4 months from now, the Department of Health Undersecretary said yes, based on speed and scale on how we do vaccination in the National Capital Region, it is possible, she said. Noting the target can be met if sectors most vulnerable to COVID-19 are inoculated against the virus. Now, this is where they have this thing they talk about is the NCR, or the National Capital Region, +8. So I'll have a bit of a look at what that actually means and why they say that's important to achieving this herd immunity or population protection. So this is an article here I'm looking at from June 11, 2021, where they're talking about getting population protection in the NCR, or the National Capital Region, +8 by the end of the year. Now, what that actually means, what they're referring to, as the Undersecretary will explain here, is that while the country's long-term plan is to achieve herd immunity in the country, the current goal is to achieve population protection, which refers to focusing vaccination efforts in specific areas. So what the 8 is, the NCR is the National Capital Region, so Metro Manila, and it also includes Metro Cebu, Metro Davao, Bulacan, Batangas, Cavite, Laguna, Pampanga, and Rizal. Now, their theory is if they can get population protection in those 8 areas, then that will cover most of the Philippines, because they say a lot of the virus is originating in those areas and then spreading out to other province areas throughout the country. So they believe if they can get a hold of it in those areas, then they will achieve herd immunity in the Philippines. Now, I guess you wonder to yourself if it's all a bit of a dream, because you've got 110 million people in the Philippines. Now, my understanding, I may be wrong here, but my understanding is that they've got to get around about 70 million people vaccinated, and that's fully vaccinated, to really achieve herd immunity. And it may be even a little bit more than that, I'm not sure, but I've heard figures of 70 to 80 million. So we go back to the other article, and based on the vaccination statistics released by the Department of Health, 11.7 million individuals had received their first dose of COVID-19 jabs as of July 4. Now, guys, here I don't want to be getting into the debate on this channel about COVID, whether it works, doesn't work, whether it's a scam, all this sort of stuff. I want to leave that. That's not what this channel is about. What this article right here is about is giving some information so people are aware of when they may or may not be able to get back into the Philippines, and know what the Philippines government's goals are in trying to get you back into the Philippines. And certainly we can all make up our own minds around getting our own information around all this sort of stuff and decide whether we want to get the jab or what COVID is or what it isn't. So of those 11.7 million individuals that had their first dose, only 2.86 million are fully vaccinated with the required 2 doses. So for healthcare workers, 1.7 million were given their first dose and 1.1 million have gotten their second dose. So that's going to be usually higher because healthcare workers need it in order to work. On the other hand, almost 3 million people with comorbidities were administered their first dose, but only 897,000 are now fully vaccinated. So not a lot going back for their second dose, unless they've, of course, only had that within the last 2 or 3 weeks and it hasn't been time to go back to get their second dose yet. For senior citizens, 2.5 million got their first shot, but only 788,000 have returned for the second dose. Of the 256,431 Indigenous population given their first dose, only 227 have received their second dose. So there seems some sort of hesitancy in people getting their second doses. I don't know personally why you get your first dose if you don't get your second, but I guess people can change their mind and they're within their rights to do that, as we all are. So guys, from that article, you can see where the Philippines is trying to head in regards to reopening the Philippines. And a lot of it is around people getting vaccinated there to create that herd immunity, as well as people being vaccinated who are going to come into the country. So maybe they're shooting for the stars here, I don't know, but at least they're having a crack at it and they're setting some pretty tough targets. Now let's hope they can achieve it, because we all want to get back to the Philippines. And more importantly, we want to see the Filipino people be able to go about earning a living again instead of really struggling as many are doing right now. So if you're one of those guys who say you're not going to get vaccinated, then simply you won't be able to go into the Philippines or probably most countries worldwide anywhere soon. And again, that's your choice to do so. I'm certainly not going to judge someone whether they want to get it or they don't want to get it. That's totally their own opinions, which we can keep quietly to ourselves. So anyway, guys, that's just a quick update on where things are headed at this point in time. There hasn't been any real positive news lately around the Philippines opening up for foreign tourists. I think they're still working around that and trying to find ways to make that happen. But again, a lot's going to depend on what we've just spoken about in this article. So hang tight and stay positive, guys. Keep on building your relationships with your Filipino online. And most certainly you'll be well rewarded in the long run. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.